Backhanded it up the boards. The Flyers were waiting for it, but he held on to it to go the other way.
Flyers penetrate, drop fast, Propp off to the point, into the corner to Eklund. Straight out in front to Propp. Shot! Score!
Pressure player. Talk about a player who has really had a great playoff. Brian Propp, nice give and go, and when he did, he went right up the alley. The quick shot high up into the penthouse. And we have really been getting down on the Flyers' power play, and it has not worked very well at all. But you only need time for it. And we only need one, and this is when they get it. Brian Propp, what a play.
Hey everybody, it's Isaiah, and I'm here with Chef B, who's going to tell us about one of our sponsors here. Chef?
Yeah, O&B Puckcast is now brought to you by Summit Public Adjusters. The winter months can be especially hard on our homes, from roof damage and peeling siding to frozen pipes and toilet overflows. Call Summit Public Adjusters before you call your insurance company. Dealing with your insurance company can be stressful and confusing. Let Summit Public Adjusters take the stress out of the claim process by having our guys work for you. Get the most for your money and your repairs. The next time the big snow or the rain leaves you with some home damage, contact us for a free consultation. Summit Public Adjusters are licensed in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Learn more at summitpublicadjusters.com or call 215-752-0560. Just tell them that the chef sent you.
Yeah, what was that number again, Chef?
215-752-0560.
That's terrific. All right, we're going to carry on with the rest of our show. And we are back. It is Isaiah. Welcome to the O&B Puckcast. We have an O&B special for you today. Yes, very, very happy to bring aboard Brian Propp, who has a brand new book. We're going to talk about that. We're brought to you by FlyersNittyGritty.com. The great Dan Silver is on another one of his work assignments, but Chef B is with me today for this real special occasion. Chef, how are you?
Very good. Very interesting to talk to Brian here about what he endured, what his career, everything in between. It's a really great story.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. This is a Flyers great. He's our contemporary. We have younger listeners. Just to tell you about Brian, he's a Flyers Hall of Famer. He played 1,016 games and had 1,003 points. And we do a lot of averaging and play with a lot of numbers today, particularly the younger fans. So over 82 games, he would average 34 goals, 47 assists, and 81 points, just to give you an idea. He played in 5 Stanley Cup finals, including 3 with the Philadelphia Flyers, and he was with the Flyers from 79-80 through 89-90. A wonderful career, a lot going on and off the ice. Let's bring him on right now. Brian, welcome to the O&B Puckcast.
Hey, how's everyone doing today? It's a nice day. I'm in New Jersey right now. It was like almost 60 degrees today, which was nice. I know you're in Florida, and I'll be in Florida and Marker Island in a week. So I like it there. It's a little 85 and sunny every day. Yeah, really, really fantastic weather down here. It's been a little more mild up there, like you were saying. So you had a great career, and you worked together with Wayne Fish on this book called Angel on My Wing, a story of faith, determination, and courage. And a lot of it centers around not only your career, but a seminal event in your life, your 2015 stroke,
that was very debilitating. And it took all the traits that you mentioned in the book to bring it together to recovery that you've achieved right now. Why don't you tell us a little bit of the backdrop about what was going on just prior to that and the aftermath?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, my dad was a Lutheran minister in Canada.
Mhm.
He preached in English and German every Sunday. I have two brothers and two sisters. We're all 13 months apart. Growing up in Saskatchewan, there's nothing but farming and not too many people. So it was a simple life. So you played hockey and went to school. And fortunately for me, my dad was a really good hockey player when he was younger, and he taught me the right ways to get ready. And so when I was like 15, I went to the Melville Millionaires and broke the scoring record there. And then 3 years with Brandon Wheat Kings, where we had powerful teams. And then I got drafted by the Flyers. But it was 9 years ago since I had my stroke, and that was September 3rd of 2015. And so a few months before, I had an ablation of the heart, or a couple of years before that, I had an ablation of the heart, which I tried to not take blood thinners after that, which it worked. But after time, the ablation of the heart wore off, and I was still in AFib. I didn't know it because I skated twice a week in New Jersey, and I didn't feel anything. So the first day I was on a vacation in Annapolis with my son Jackson. We were going to visit a school there, and the first day I was feeling okay. The second day we had the rented house, and that night I just stayed in because I had a really bad headache. And that night, in the middle of the night, I fell out of bed, hit the side of the bed, lost a tooth. All those years playing hockey, I didn't lose a tooth. And then I couldn't talk or walk at all. So I didn't know what was going on after that. So thankfully, my son was there to call 911 pretty fast. And then we went to the hospital right there. And then from there, after 5 days, I went to McGee Hospital in Philadelphia, where I did a lot of my rehab.
Wow. I mean, atrial fibrillation, I was in pharma and medical, so I have a brief understanding because I sold pharma for hypertension. And that's like a regular or a rapid heartbeat that, can lead to the kind of problems that you had.
Yeah, that was it. And again, I was in good shape. And the clot went into my heart in three different places. And so my son said that he saw the scans and he can't believe that I lived through that. But being there with my family, otherwise if I was by myself, I'm not here right now. But them calling pretty fast, and then just took a long time. It took me a year and a half to get much better. Especially at the start where I couldn't speak at all. So it took a long time, but I've done a lot of things over the last 9 years to get better. And on my book, I have a lot of hints for people who have to rehab and, just to try to get better and stay positive. Because at the start, it was really frustrating because I couldn't communicate at all. And I knew what I wanted to say, but couldn't get it out. And so I didn't know if I'd ever speak again. But thankfully, as an athlete, you kind of work at things. And then I did like 3 hours of for physical, occupational, and speech therapist. And but the speech took me the longest. Like it took me like 8 months before I could really kind of get better.
Yeah, that is a slow, tedious process. I could only imagine. And one of the things, if you get the book and you really want to check this book out, it's all on Amazon. And in the show notes for tonight, if you're listening, we're going to have different links for you to pick this great book up. You talk about some of the modalities that were used and some of the things like the Bremer machine, NAD drips, and some of the other technologies that you've employed to try and move yourself along in addition to the PT that you mentioned. So you got to check that out because some good stuff that catches my attention, Chef.
Yeah, I've read and I saw in other interviews that you've done. I wasn't aware of it, but I had a brother that had cancer and he did some stem cell therapy too and immunotherapy. I didn't realize it was able to be used for this application. Could you elaborate on that for people that didn't know that, like I was?
Yeah, so like after like a year after my stroke, like the NHL, I was working with them, but they had a program in Colorado where I took the cells from my hip from the hip, and then they took the cells and then they recirculated the blood and in the machine, and then they put the cells back. So at that time, it was an NHL program that helped me because it immediately noticed a difference with my speech with a StelSem treatment. I did that. Some of the other things that I've been doing, like the Beamer machine, it's a mat that you can buy, and it promotes blood flow in your whole body every 30% more every time you use it. And so it's really easy to use for 8 minutes in the morning and afternoon, and then you build it up, but it's you don't have to take pills anymore. I've been using that for 8 years, and like I have tons of energy, and I haven't been sick again. And it's just takes the place of pills and things like that. But the blood flow in your whole body, like it just makes a big difference because the small capillaries in your body need to get the blood through them. And so that was one of the things that I did. And another thing I did is oxygen oasis in Langhorne, PA. Like it's a room that you can put together for oxygen in your brain. And so I did that for an hour and a half, like 40 or 50 times, just to make clear and after. But I think the StelSem treatment that you talked about, Chef, made a big difference for me, putting the cells back in my body, and then I immediately noticed a big difference with that.
Very good.
Terrific. Yeah. So here you are, and we look back now. Unlike some of the other people you might speak to, I remember when you came into the league in 79, 80, and post Cup, I was fortunate enough to be alive for those two Cups in 74 and 75. And then the Flyers ran into this dynasty of the Montreal Canadiens. And at the end of that, you come in and you had a fantastic season in the WHL the year before. You had 94 goals, 100 assists, 194 points total. And I think, are you still on like the all-time CHL team?
Yeah, like because that year I won the MVP of the three leagues that year in '79 because of my points, and then we went to the Memorial Cup with Brandon Weekings that year too. But the year before, like I won the scoring there, and then so like it was, like 3 years I played with good players like Brad McCrimmon and Ray Allison. I've known them for 3 years, and unfortunately Brad died in the plane crash like 12 years ago. I miss him all to this day still. And then Ray Allison, he lives in Myrtle Beach now, last 5 years, and so like I keep in contact with them because I'm still with the Flyers alumni. I'm on their board. And we do a lot of things for golf and running and you name it. We do a lot with our fans that are there. We have the Flyers Carnival coming up in March, and then we might have a trip to Scotland with some of the older guys in April. And so like we got a lot of things going on. So I know everybody on the Flyers alumni, and I have all their information and where they lived and where they do things with. So yeah, but it's just for me just getting playing with good players and good coaches like Pat Quinn was a good coach, and then we had Dunk McCollum who played 15 years in NHL. He was a good coach there too. So powerful teams with that. And then I got drafted by the Flyers in 79, 80, and I was working on the farm. I didn't even know when I got drafted. I think they called me. It's so different now, but. And that was the year that the NHL merged, so there's no World Hockey Association. Otherwise, it could have made more bartering. But you took what you did, and thankfully for me, I got drafted in 14th and got to play with a good team with Bob Clark and Reggie Leach and Barber and Pat Quinn, and so I learned a lot from them. And we made the playoffs like almost every year, and that was the year that I'll never forget, because I played with Bob Clark and Reggie Leach for the first 20 games, and I scored my first NHL goal against Bill Smith. And I had an assist, but it was a game winner. So I said, "Wow, this is the way hockey is going to go." And then we lost 9-2 in Atlanta the second year, and I said, "Oh wow, is this what the energy is going to be like?" And then we went 35 without a loss, which was still a record today, probably never broken. And then we went to the finals that year.
Yeah, you ran into another dynasty, the Islanders, and and it was just so close. But with some of the calls that still to this day, I think who was it? Leon Stickle. He had to grow a mustache and like
But if we won in overtime Game 6 to force a Game 7 back in Philadelphia, who knows? We probably would have won the Stanley Cup then too. But you don't know. It's the ifs, a little word with big meaning, and and then so. Right. But thankfully, I contributed in the playoffs a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. Definite. I think I had your playoff stats: 160 games, 64 goals, 84 assists, 148 points. Just scoring machine, Chef.
So, talking about that time period brings me back to my family. Well, the big hockey person in my house was my mom, and Joe Watson was her favorite. She just loved Joe Watson. I think she liked to watch him, and we're a big Irish Catholic family. I have 5 brothers, right? And we played, similar to your German, German background with your father being a minister. What was it like growing up? I loved growing up in a big family. We always had a full hockey team or a full basketball team or something along those lines. We always all dragged out to play. Now, you said you had 2 brothers, and the sisters. Were any of them ever interested in hockey? Because I'm assuming, you probably got a lot of your talents from your father. You said he was a good player too as well, right?
Yeah. Well, my brothers and sisters both played hockey, because a little town of 300 people, and Saskatchewan's the province is bigger than Texas, and there's less than 1 million people in it. So it's tough. You had to find enough people to make a team. And so in Saskatchewan, we had little teams, like 20 minutes away. And then so you find enough people to get a team together. And then so then as long as you had enough to play and a goalie, then you skated a little bit more. But I always played up when I was the older guys were with me. And so I think, at that, it was just gave me more time. And just having the rink in town, I skated almost every night, and worked on my skating and my shot and things like that. Just the basic things that you do. But in your team, your brothers are probably you have more people with it. But we didn't have enough time to make it teams. I know. Well, I was in Neudorf, where I graduated. I was a top 3 in my class, but I was only 10 people in the class.
Well, it all worked out, that's for sure. And one of the themes throughout the book, with the ups and downs, was your early religious upbringing, Chef had alluded to, and that certainly guided you through some of the toughest parts. And there's a palpable sense reading the book that it was really a fundamental element in your life that helped you get to where you're at, in the positives and dealing with the challenges.
Yeah. So I know that my dad, when I left, because my brother Greg, he left when he was 17 to work as a mechanic in Regina, which is 90 minutes away. And then I left when I was 16 to play with the Brandon Wheat Kings. So the 2 of us weren't at home, so we were independent, and so we had to learn how to do things ourselves. And so that from there you learn a lot from that. But I'll never forget when I left, my dad said, "Hey, listen, one thing I want to tell you is that be happy with your own life, and don't let whatever thinks. Just be happy with your own life, because everything else will take care of itself." And that made great sense for me, because I was really quiet at the start. I wasn't I was really quiet, and not like Brad McCrimmon. He talked all the time, but I was really quiet. And so even when I went to the Flyers, I was more immature, and I didn't really know what was going on. But it took me a couple of years to learn, like with the top leaders, like with Bob Clark and Dave Poulin and Mark Howe and Brad McCrimmon. So I learned from them to listen and learn what's going on. So like after Bob Clark retired in 85, Dave Poulin and I learned a lot with them to be a better leader and how to react.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and it came in handy because you, as a transitioned out of that 80s squad and some frustrating years in the early 80s, the Flyers made a big trade with the Rat Ken Linsman, ostensibly to replace Bob Daly, whose career had ended with the ankle problem, and they get Mark Howe, and now they're putting together this new team. And then in 84, 85, there's a whole new regime. Bob Clark retires, like you referred to. Mike Keenan comes in, and at the last moment, they trade Darryl Sittler. And from a fan standpoint, I guess I'm 24 at this time watching you, and you're the lone holdover from that 80s squad. What was that changeover like? You're the veteran now, and you're still learning about leadership, like you're talking about from Dave Poulin, and of course they were soon to have Brad McCrimmon added to that mix, and that must have been a really good thing for you as well.
Yeah, so Brad was there like in the mid 80s, like he got traded from Boston to that. And then also Ray Allison came from Hartford to Philadelphia too. So like the three of us got together again. But Mark Howe was a great leader. And in 85, Rick Tocchet, Mellenby, Zazel, and Derek Smith kind of added to the team. And so a couple of those other guys that were like in the 80s, 85 were like kind of getting older. And so like they replaced them with younger guys. And so I think with me being a leader, like I used to take them for dinner and kind of talk with them, just to make sure that they're doing okay, well, and that really helped most of those guys learn from the start, like how good leaders are run a team. And Keenan was there too, 85 to 90. And so he did a good job of that too. But, we had good players and good teams all the time. So we didn't have to worry about the coaching, and we could work other things.
Yeah. Keenan was, even for his time, he was coaches were, I don't think that would fly today by any stretch. But like you said, you always had the really good teams, but he could really be abrasive, even in a winning environment. How did you hold up with that?
Well, I loved him, and because so did the better players, because he wanted to win every game. And so it didn't matter if he was down by 2 goals, he'd play the best players he wanted to. Like we go into 2 lines, but we most of the time we had a lead in the third, and so we played good defense, and so we didn't have to work that hard. I liked that he wanted to win every game. And I got along really well with him. Every once in a while, like I used to smirk at him, and he used to drive him crazy. But when I started doing the guffaw, it drove him nuts. Right. But I kept scoring, but then he liked to be challenged. Like so after I learned, hey, listen, if he runs back, he yells back at you, that's good for you. And then, but he always even with the younger guys, he might say something that he shouldn't have, and then the next day he takes them in their office and he'll explain to them or says sorry for what he did. So he learned from that. It was his first year coaching, like it's from the pros, but we went to the finals in 85 and 87, and then and of course Pele died in 85, which made a difference. And then of course Ron Hextall changed the game, the way he shot the puck in 87, and we almost won then too.
Yeah, absolutely. Chef?
So you mentioned Dave Poulin. I'm going to transition this because about what a great leader was. He often gets glossed over in that time period because of all the other players that were around him. And I guess it's a tribute to the way he was a leader. But also combined with that, what other players have, or what impact, or who or what had an impact over your style of play when you were coming up and learning all this?
Yeah, so like I always forget that, like when I played for the Melville Millionaires when I was 15 and 16, I tell people I was only a millionaire once. So because I never was after that, but because we didn't make that much money. But Jerry James was the coach there. He played in the NHL for Toronto, and he also played in football in the CFL. So he played two states, but I think that he learned from there, like especially football, like the plays that they have, and he was ahead of his time for working out. And so I know that he helped me with memorizing the plays. But I also had good teams too, like played with good players too. But he was a good coach for me, and he's a funny guy, and he played pros, and he was. But I'll never forget him teaching me how football players like how they coach, and that's where Keenan came in and a couple other guys too, because with Ron Jaworski, I do a lot of his charity golf events, and he's analyzes all the plays, and so hockey was a little different. So the 1980 when they won in the Olympics, I think they were ahead of their time with how they strategized how to against the Russians.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that comes across in the book is I like these little sections that feature certain coaches like Pat Quinn or Dave Poulin or Tim Kerr. But Tim Kerr happens to be my all-time favorite Flyer. You're right up there. And Tim was an enigma, and yet you scored very close. I mean, you had 4 40-goal seasons, and you just missed having a fifth when you had 39 or something like that. But it must have been frustrating in 87 with not having him. And he's like that. He was such a clutch scorer. And if you look back, I know we talked about the word if, but if there's one if for me as a Flyers fan, it's like, if I could just, sell my soul, I wouldn't do it. But if I could, it would be to have Tim Kerr healthy and available for, game 6 and 7 for that Edmonton series, because it was such a clutch player. And he had his own quiet way of being a leader and a mentor.
Yeah, he definitely was. And he still has a place in Avalon, next to where we are in CL, and his 2 sons work in real estate in Amazon and Starnhover. And so I know his two boys, but he's a great player. And of course he died. His wife died when she was giving him
tragic.
That was tragic too. But he stays to himself. But he's one of the best players. And then even in the playoffs, if you get to the finals, you have injuries. And then Edmonton was pretty powerful, so they didn't really. They breezed through everything. But we played 26 games that year. We were beat up, and so we were exhausted. But having a guy like a Tim Kerr, even for that one game, the power play here or there could have made a difference. But that's if little word with big meaning. And but we at least the people in Philadelphia really appreciated us, how hard we worked. That effort will never get in the way of what they think of us.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Shep, before I go to you, you mentioned the guffaw. It's your trademark, your go-to after a goal, and it's something to do with if Howie Mandel. There's a connection there, and I just thought it was really interesting because where do you come up with that? Making that gesture, and then something that's talked about in the book. But maybe you could recount that for us.
Yeah, so in the 80s, when I came to the Flyers, usually I was the first year, I was working at the farm because I had to work there, and then after that I'd stayed in Philadelphia for the winter or the season. And so, but I always liked him in the 80s. He did his shows in Atlantic City, community shows. So I got a chance to I liked what he did, and he's Canadian like me. And so, I liked what he did. A show in one of the casinos, and he said it's like a glove that he had over his head. And then so I decided to copy him when I scored the goals. And so, and when he called me, it was in the playoffs in 84. And so I thought that people were joking, but he called and said, hey, this is me, Howie Mandel. I heard you're scoring and doing the guffaw. And then I got a chance to talk to him. And so he didn't mind that I trademarked that because he had other things going on. And but I got a chance to meet him a couple times, and like a year ago, like I was just back at the casino in Atlantic City, and I got a chance to have dinner with him and just to talk with him because he's changed a lot too. Because in the '80s, he's like a clean freak, but he has heart problems too. So I had a good chance to talk with him after my stroke, because like with his heart, he's looking for things to get better too.
Oh, sure, Chef.
So it's amazing. You sit in the area. You mentioned Tim Kerr is still in the area. In fact, a lot of players in this franchise, probably even more so than the other franchises that are in the city, have hung around here. And there's something about Philly, I guess, that grabs people and draws them in. Even like, I want to say the people that have only played for a couple of years, you're talking about like Jonesy, Lappy, even Patrick Sharp came back now too. So, and they actually come back, work for the organization. They stay in the area. What was it for you that, you went off and played for other teams after your Flyers career, but what made you come back?
Yeah. So like, at the start, like I was happy to be drafted. And so like, I didn't know how long I'd play. I was hoping that I could play long, but what are you going to do in Canada, like Saskatchewan after that? So I decided to play good hockey and stay in the area because what are you going to do for work? But it was just, the way it works is that it's just that this area is really good because it's Philadelphia. There's Shore. It's on the east. There's Boston. There's New York. There's Washington, Philadelphia. Pittsburgh. So everything's close. But I think Ed Snyder was the one that put the team together. He knew that he had the right character people, that they build a team with character players, and then they'll figure out if they want to work after. So a lot of these guys still stay in as an alumni and did a lot of work there, but he helped a lot of people that are working today, even with the team, like last 2 years, like with Danny Briere and Jones and Pat Shark, and even Leclerc's working with the team, and Dave Brown, and you name it. There's a lot of people that are still working for the team in the area, and it's such a good city, and people love what you're doing, and we have lots of, like, we have our Flyers alumni golf tournament every July, and we have a walk and run, and we do a lot of things with alumni, and we'll fly other guys to Canada to attend, like the golf and other things. That we have a night that's called the fight night, where all the fighters, and so we do a lot of things. But these guys, there's probably in New Jersey and PA, there's probably like close to 30 guys that are still living in the area and working in the area.
Yeah. And one of the other things that occurred, we wanted to recognize that even when you left the Flyers, you had 2 more Stanley Cup finals in your future, and you performed very admirably in both of them. But before that went down, your last year, one of your last years with the Flyers, I think it was '89, of course, the incident with Chris Chelios. It was really one of the uglier things I've seen in my time as a fan, and it's obviously not a great memory for you, but you got through it. It was just vicious from a guy who's got a reputation for that, and it was a tough moment.
Yeah, because I could have died from that hit too. So like that hit, and then my stroke, like I could have died twice, but I have 3 lives, 9 lives now it looks like. But and also my faith, it takes advantage of how thinking positive, and like I know, like when I had my stroke and my dad wasn't going well, like I think he wanted me to live just to, so that I could see my grandchildren. I have 2 kids, but I haven't done any grandchildren yet, so I'm still waiting for them to be brought up. But it's been 9 years since my stroke, and so like I'm happy to be alive. And 87, like I know that year it was the first game in Toronto, in Montreal, and really dirty hit, and he did it on purpose, but he didn't say sorry. And to this day, you know, he still does some posts that aren't that nice. But you know, what are you going to do? I'm the better person for you know, just leaving him alone.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. So, one of the other things that you're known for in Philadelphia, post career, this you have a lot of different ventures. You know, afterwards was your radio career, and you were doing color analysis with Tim Saunders, and you talk about that and how it's not something you felt like you were a natural at, but I really enjoyed your commentary, and it was something definitely evolved and became a real strength for you.
Yeah, so that was the year like in 2000, because I started with the Medford Ice Rink. I built the Medford Ice Rink in New Jersey 3 years before that. And then halfway through the season, Steve Coates went to the TV like as a third guy, because that was in 2000 where they changed a lot of other things. So now they have more broadcasters at the rink and things like that. So halfway through the season, like I went for it and said, "Hey, listen, I was really bad the first year and a half, but I tried to get better. It's like athletes, you learn and do the work. And like I know that I had Gene Hart and Bill Clement help me at the start, so I listened to every broadcast and take and try to get better on it. And so just even the little things that you did. So like after after 2 years, like it kind of, I got much better, but it was really so much fun. And then, you know, then I was able to, you know, played every home and away game and playoff game, which was fun. And then I went to the judge group for 5 years in Conshohocken. And the last 11 years I've been with Wolf Commercial Real Estate. And of course, my boss, Jason Wolf, like when I first had my stroke, like, he really helped me my first year and a half, because he still paid me, and even though I couldn't talk or do anything, so that made a difference for me, just because I didn't make that much money at that time. And so all the things that I had, I'm thankful to have friends and family and you name it, Flyers alumni supporting me and giving back. And because like I do my own charity hockey event. It'll be March 22nd at Aston Ice Rink. I use 6 former alumni to split up the 2 teams, and that's going to be for Headstrong Cancer, a guy that I know, like he used to play, but he died last year. And so, you know, I just wanted him to remember that. And then I have my own golf tournament. It'll be my 3rd year doing it at Riverwinds Country Club for the Stroke Center of University of Pennsylvania. And so that'll be my 3rd year doing that. So it's the day after Mother's Day every May. And this year I'm going to probably sell it out and make a little money for the Stroke Center of University of Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have chapters and things like that talk about these things, along with the things you're involved in as well. And one of the other chapters I thought was really great is where you summarize some of your greatest memories, and you know, notable among them are your Canada Cup experience, and of course your reunion with Kerr and Poulin in the 2012 alumni game, and that was obviously special for you if it made that chapter for sure.
Well, of course, in 1989, that was the year that I played for Team Canada, and that was the year before, like the Russians couldn't get it drafted until 1990. So like they played to win every game, and they strict, and so they had to play. But it was a Canadian tournament, Canada Cup tournament, and so I played with Gretzky and Lemieux most of the tournament. And so thankfully it was a 3-game series, and still known as one of the best series in hockey because it was every game score was 6-5. We lost the one 6-1, 6-5 the first game. The second game we won 6-5 in a double overtime, and I was on the ice when Lemieux scored. And then of course nobody forgets that Lemieux scored to win the game 6-5 with a minute left of the game in Canada. So that's a huge series. But at that time, like the hockey was a little different, because now it's more like the Olympics, like I think in 87, like was really fast, and we had good players. Like we had Messier, Anderson, Bork, Coffey, Doug Crossman, Rick Tockett, Sutter, Gilmore, Herichuk. We had all these good players too. So
Yeah.
it was tough to pick for the team. But for me, it was really nice to be on the winning side of winning and having some champagne after a win.
Yeah. If I recall, and I'll look this up, you had a goal and an assist in that deciding game.
Yeah. I was like, I tried to force a little bit more, but you have to remember, like we were down 3-0 10 minutes into the game, and so like it wasn't looking good. And then Tockett score, and then I scored, and then another guy's Murphy scored to get us back in the game. So it's the plumbers, the guys that you don't remember, like with that. Like when I scored, I was with Sutter and Rick Tockett. So, then you kind of mix it around, and Keenan was good with mixing the lines up. But most of that tournament, I was playing with Gretzky and Lemieux.
Yeah, that was something. Wow. So you also had a great chapter on the Philadelphia Flyer fans. And while thinking, well, fans are the same everywhere, but there's a different kind of breed of fan in Philadelphia, I believe, having lived in Florida and been a couple other places, built most of my life in Philly. And I thought that was a really good chapter, especially the way we all kind of go this 4-for-4 route, although some of these teams are really really trying our patience. Yeah, you had a real appreciation for the folks up in Philly, and it's appreciated from this fan, that's for sure.
Yeah, so like in the 80s, like we did, there's no phones and videos, and so you hung out with people and you had dinner together with people. You got to meet other people, but that's so different now from all the phones and videos that they have. But it was fun because we always were in the playoffs. Like I was in for the Flyers every year that I was there with them, and as like 3 other years I was in the playoffs with other teams. So it was just good. But in the area, like I've been here for 45 years, and like I said, we have the shores. We've got New Jersey, PA, Maryland, and so like it's all close. And then you go to New York, and it's close too. So it's just they come from all over. Like it's 95 is right there, and the rink is right there, and so like you get to see a lot of people. But I think just by hanging out with the people and being real with the people, and them appreciating just to say hi and having the time to talk and to give back, I think that's why the fans in Philadelphia are so good. And I know it's been tough the last 10 years. Like now you're in Tampa, and like they won a couple times. They were almost 3 in a row, but you give room for that. But they're building it back, and hopefully they get into playoffs this year again, because you never know. Like if you get a hot goalie and you get into playoffs, and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. It's especially some of the talent they've added. Might be a little bit of a stretch for them to go too far, but would really be nice to see them, do something in the postseason this year, Chef.
So you had mentioned Kerr and all. What over the years you obviously had many line mates. What was your favorite combination? What was your favorite guys to play with? And not necessarily have to be the best guys you play with, but I guess the pair of guys that made you have the most fun, like it was a game again instead of a job or whatever.
Yeah, so like in the 80s, it was always Mark Howe and Brad McCrimmon, because they're so good that like they're plus minus, like it's almost got a plus every game. And so when I played with Tim Kerr and Dave Poulin, like we always had a chance to score. And so like, it was really fun just because they force all the time. But now like the Flyers are forcing all the time, so they have more opportunity to get into the offense. And so that was what I did too. But I also liked Ray Bork and Neely and that team too, because we had a chance to win. We were the number one in that year in 90, and we had a chance. And unfortunately, we was triple overtime when we lost the first game in Boston. But the lights fell down, and Power went out, and so then Klimo scored in triple overtime. So that change, that's different. And then of course with Minnesota, I liked Mike Madonna and Dave Gagne. He was a little bit of rookie, and so he was really fast and good. So I had a good chance to play with really good players, and then that year, we did as well as we could, until Mario took over the last 2 games. But still getting there and producing, and you have to try as hard as you can. Sometimes it doesn't work, and most of the time it does. But people remember the effort that you have.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Especially in Philly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had 23 points in 23 playoff games that 91 year versus the Penguins when they started their 2-year run. So you were always running into those teams that were on that climb. How special was it in that last year with Hartford? And you wanted to get to 1,000 points, 1,000 games, 1,000 points, and you were able to accomplish that. It must have been very satisfying to accomplish that goal at a time when you were past your best years.
Yeah, so that was like you said, I didn't play that much my last year, but I played fourth line. I didn't complain. I just kept working at it, and of course, thankfully, I still can't believe that I scored as many as I did points I did, but you worked hard at it, and you find a way to get better. And of course, that year was Paul Holmgren was a coach, and then he became the GM halfway through the season. That's why Pierre Maguire kind of took over as a coach. So I think that Pierre gave me a little more time on the power play, which at the end of the year, which probably helped me get the 1,000 points and play 1,000 games, which was special. If I didn't, it was no big deal, but they measure, I think, by stats or something like that. But, who knows? For me, it doesn't really matter. I could have scored more points over the years, but with the Flyers, you wanted to win, and you didn't care about the points, because most of these guys that I play now, they can play forever because they don't get hurt, and they have lots of stats, but some of them have never played a power play, a playoff game. And so I measure the points where I'm number one for left wings all time in history for scoring, in that year, in history. So that's important for me, just to kind of to be there.
Yeah, no, I definitely. I mean, that's part of it. It's one thing to make it. It's another thing to be an all-star, and it's another thing that have personal glory. But to share that and to be part of a team that's good enough to get that far and eventually be chosen for Canada Cup, which might have been the best year of hockey in the game's history, I think it speaks a lot for you. It really does.
Yeah, it was. It was so good.
Yeah. So you have a lot of off-ice ventures that are interesting. You talked about wolfce.com. So it's Wolf for real estate.
Yeah, CRE. And so what I've done is when I first started with Jason in 2015. After a couple of years, we ran our own hockey event, charity hockey event. We did 4 of them. We raised almost 50,000, 50,000 each year for the charities that we support. 6 charities for that. So I've done that when I first started with Wolf, and then the last few years I've been working. I have my own Headstrong Cancer hockey event that I'm going to have on March 22nd again, and then in May 12th I'm going to have my 3rd golf tournament for the Riverbend's Stroke Center hockey. So, but and then I did some other charity hockey event. One's a MS charity, and then another one's going to be an AFib, TIF charity. So I used a lot of work, but most of the alumni, and there's a couple Devils that I still play with, just Olav, and then Grant Marshall, and Bruce Driver, because they're only
Driver, right? Yeah, right.
an hour from where we are, and so a lot of those times I use the other guys from other alumni too.
Oh, great. Now you're also involved with millions.ca, and some of this is going to be in the show notes, folks, in case you forget some of this detail. Yeah. Tell us.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, And Brian Propp apparel and cigars too as well, right?
Yeah, so but millions.ca is a company in Canada. So with that, I have my own Gaffa cigar brand. So on there, I have t-shirts, hoodies, hats. I've got Gaffa hits, a lot of gear and pucks. It's just on that site. So that's easy. And then I started my own Gaffa cigars from the Dominican Republic that I set it up 7 years ago. I went with Ken Demick, a former Eagle, and my son Jackson went to the Dominican Republic to visit a couple factories with a couple other guys, and then so we stayed for 5 days and then checked it all out. And so I decided that, hey, listen, I wanted to make my own brand, which I did, which is the Gaffa brand. But it took me a year to get it set up, doing it the right way with the blend that I have for my cigars. I started with 425 boxes of my boxes of 10, and then a year later, then I decided that was selling okay. So I decided to make a mild, a medium, and a Maduro, a little variety. But they're 56 by 6 inches this time. But they're all really good cigars, and so I've been selling them, for a few years. And I have a couple events. I've got one at Chubby's Steakhouse in Gloucester City on the 15th and 16th, and right over the bridge. And so I'm going to use my cigars for that, and support a couple charities there. And so if everyone just wants to go online, but just tell me to call me, because if they want, I can ship to them too. I have boxes of 5, 10, 24, and bundles of 25. And most of the golf tournaments that I do for Jaworski's, I'll sit in a par 3 and they can buy some cigars for me for $10 each too, but they're really good quality.
So this is gaffacigars.com.
Yes.
Okay, we'll have that also in the notes. And you have a hydration company your wife is involved in, and you have some centers down here in Florida. But for the folks up in the Philadelphia area, where most of our audience is, what do they want to know about Prime IV and hydration?
Yeah, so the Prime IV hydration is one of the top franchises in the U.S. And so it's been around for 5 years. My wife has been owned the franchise in Marlton, New Jersey, for the last year. But it's usually about hydration and IVs that you have. They've got lots of IVs, mixes up, and they can also do some vitamin shots, and then they also have peptides for weight loss. And so it's all healthy for you, but you have to be a national registered nurse to be do the IVs in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. In Florida, you can use EMT, so it's so different, but it's much easier. It's tougher in New Jersey, but it's really healthy for you. And so that's why, I did a drip called the NA Day treatment, which is I did 4-day drips in a row of 3.5 hours. It took. Mm-hmm. And it cleans out your whole system. It replaces the cells in your body that you when you get older you need. And and now every 3 months I do a maintain for a 3-hour drip to maintain it. But I noticed a big difference, because the only problem with my right hand is that
I noticed in the book.
It's not as swollen. And I have more energy, and I can talk more clearly. And when I talk fast, I don't get mixed up a little bit more, because I still have aphasia with my stroke. And but I've come a long way from that, and it's just it's been pretty amazing with all the things that you can do to help yourself get better.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, you collaborated on this great book, again, Angel on My Wing, with Brian Propp and, of course, Wayne Fish. Do you have any book signings coming up in the next little bit or so?
Yeah, so we have one on on the 11th. I'm going to be at Chicky and Pete's in Audubon, PA. Chicky and Pete's is a restaurant like that they have in PA and New Jersey all over. And so and then gonna be Bernie Prawn's gonna be on the show too. It's an hour show, and so it's right at their restaurant on the 11th, and then the 14th I have a signing on Prime IV Hydration in 9 in Marlton, New Jersey. If you want to look it up, Route 73 and north, and then I have a cigar event at Chubby's Steakhouse on the 15th and 16th of December, and then I've got the Flyers fan club on the 17th. At the Wells Fargo, and then I've got the 18th. I have another cigar and book signing on the 18th at Prime IV Hydration again in Marlton, and then the 19th have to get ready, head back to Florida on the 20th.
Wow, yeah, it goes by fast. You got a lot. You have so much going on. I think it's really fantastic and keeps everything. Keeps your mind active, and I can hear that. It's you've done such a fantastic job considering the odds that you had to face. That was the last one from me. Chef, do you have anything more for Brian?
Well, I mean, you talked about with Wayne Fish. I mean, I'm sure you had some aha moment with and you said, "Oh, I really want to tell my story." And I guess you said it took like a year for to get the audio together, and then a year editing. So what was the initial process that got this whole book started for you?
Yeah, so because Wayne Fish has been with me since I started with the Flyers a couple years before that, so I've known him for all those years, and he's a great runner. So he decided to, because he did a book with Chris Therien 4 years ago, so he helped with that. And so when I had my stroke, he talked with me and said, "Hey, listen, well, what do you think about this? Well, I'll do a book here about a stroke and how you recovered." And I said, yeah, that sounds good, because he kind of knew how to do it with the Chris Therrien's book and put an outlet together. And so I did all the recordings with him for a year, and then we did edit it after that. So it just, you had to put it together the right way. But so for me, it was just kind of talking a little bit about my faith, of course, with my dad being a minister and my family being religious, and then a little bit about hockey, and then my stroke and how I recovered from a stroke and how I can help other people. So it's just, it took a long time, but now that it's up and running a month ago, so it's, I'm happy to say that I'm still number one for stroke books right now. And I was at the Flyers game last night, and had 50 people just bought books, and so it makes a good Christmas gift this year. But I think most of the people are ordering it online. And then there's also Canada. In Canada, it's Indigo. I think they order it in Indigo. And so I think that really makes a difference, because of me playing in Canada and the US. You just getting the word out there, and doing a couple radio and some TV hits and things like that. I'm going to try to get on WMMR next week, and because that'll help, because I met them at a game, and so they're going to set it up for that. Just promoting it a little better, and just to let people know, hey, listen, they can call me anytime they want, with questions they have, and find out more. Because all these guys have massive strokes, react differently, and so sometimes they need encouragement to get their more help.
Well, you're certainly an inspiration, I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Brian, thanks so much for coming on board. We're going to get as much of our information that we talked about in terms of these contacts up in the show notes. And Chef is this is an audio podcast, but you're showing we have the book, and I have the Kindle. So thanks so much. I appreciate you coming aboard.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Anytime. You, yes.
I hope to have you on sometime again very soon. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Right. And we are back from our interview with Brian Propp. I'll tell you, that was something else, Chef. Really informative, and I can only imagine the magnitude of the challenge in front of somebody I know people have had dementia. My family doctor, who I think happened to be Jonesy's and Al Morgani's family doctor, thought he beat possibility of a stroke. He had a double carotid clean out. You have atherosclerosis. And he thought, hey, he's home free. He sells his practice. He's going to move back to Pensacola. And he has a massive stroke. He's debilitated. So, and just to see what Brian went through and be able to come back and with only a very slightly noticeable difficulty understanding, you get that with John Fetterman, the senator from PA, but he's actually a little bit better than Fetterman, really.
Yeah, he really was. He was great. You could tell he was very dedicated too, and very passionate about what he wants to talk about and get out there and make sure it's not mostly about hockey so much as it about the journey afterwards. So that was great.
Yeah, we wanted to get a little hockey out of him, and I think we got a satisfactory amount. We'll let you be the judge. We can't do that. Ultimately, the listener is a judge. Now, so I guess we have to talk about the Philadelphia Flyer team that has lost 3 in a row, 7-5 to Florida, 4-3, a particularly galling loss in Boston. And then last night, they were just out hustled, outplayed. They look like they're tired and worn out in a 4-2 home loss versus the Utah Hockey Club, marking the return of Samuel Ersson and improved Jamie Drysdale. He went to start initially with Drysdale, looked so much better to me. Or do you disagree?
Yeah, no, I think he looked a little, how do you say, shake the rust off in the first period or so, like for a little bit. But then he kind of settled in there. Muscle memory, I'm sure, had a lot to play with that. And he settled into a decent game. Decent. I mean, he had a pretty good game. I was surprised at how well he did after being out for so long. So let's just say that.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of the things. I saw him in practice when I went to the skate zone that day when I was in town. And I said, this is all we worked on, walking the line, getting shots through, using his speed, going around a defender. And I'm like, well, good for him. They asked him to do certain things. He worked. He got a lot of reps with that stuff. And it wouldn't surprise me if he might have been healthy enough to come back like a little bit sooner, but they wanted him to get more reps. And it certainly is an improvement over Zamula, who just, for me, he can't process the game. So that first game at home versus Florida, they come back from behind and they take all these penalties. Some were kind of iffy, but main thing was that power play. So even if you take out the empty net power play goal, they still scored on 3 out of 4, and the Flyers penalty kill has really taken a hit lately as they go on to lose this game 7-5, and that seems to be a story that has been present throughout the last 3 games.
Well, have you noticed though? Who are the guys taking the penalties? The penalty killers. That's been their biggest thing. Cam York, a couple of times, and then you've had Sean Couturier won, TK 3, right? Farabee won. I know he's not necessarily on the power play, but it just seems to be like, and granted, and we're never going to make excuses for the refs on this show. We will never. But even with those marginal calls, there's still stupid things to do. What are you slashing at? You're heading off. He's heading off the ice, and then you take a slash at him, or an extra push or shove. I understand the Farabee one sticking up for Travis Sanheim, because honestly, I thought Sanheim was going to be hurt in that cross check, and then he comes and buries the guy right behind him, the Farabee, and he drops the gloves and he wants to beat the crap out of the guy. I respect that part of it based on Flyers history and cheap shots over the years, but I just didn't. I just think that it wasn't. I know Torts had talked about Travis being undisciplined and he kind of benched him, but it's not just him. These last 3-4 games, everybody's been like taking liberties, and I think that's got to get reined in a little bit there, because I think they're better. They're a better team than this record shows right now.
They had moments, and this is what losing teams do, but they have moments where they look like, oh, okay, they have this game under control. But Bennett hit Sanheim in the Florida game, going back to that. And to me, it's time, place, score. You got Florida kind of where you want them, And then you had that awful goal from the blue line that Kolosov, who replaced Fedotov, and that's a whole little storyline there. Kolosov wasn't ready to play, but he did seem to be ready to play versus Boston. And it was just really frustrating to see Michkov get a couple goals. They look like, okay, and Kolosov's ready to play. So, okay, chalk that up, the Florida game, to this is another lesson that Kolosov learns. He's got to be ready to play even as a fill-in, and come in and give the Flyers something. But then, the team takes all these penalties, and it's really frustrating. And the toughest thing for me as an out-of-towner, I don't get the NHL Network. So I find out the Saturday matinee games, I got to go to that Russian website, and you got to play around. There's all these different pop-ups. So that was frustrating on top of everything else. Finally, I get the team, I get the game up on the big screen by streaming it from this kooky website that could go out any minute, and the Flyers blow that game. And of course, the overtime, what was that tip in the corner that gave that away? I forget. In overtime.
No, it was Forrester, wasn't it?
Well, whoever it was, I mean, Pasternak gave it to Zucker, and it's so frustrating. They trapped him down in their own zone, and and it was like Swayman was that unbeatable, but I thought Kolosov gave them enough that they should have won that game, with a lead. But that's just the way that goes. Last night, totally different story. They were fumbling the puck all night, and they were chasing that game. It just, good to see Sam back, but what about that?
He didn't play that bad. He wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't him.
No, he did all right. Defense was shaky. Too many unforced errors. They seemed out. And defense on when they were transitioning back to defense, it just seemed like they were never in the right spot. Two people were overcommitting. The off defenseman was like coming over like to help out, and I always thought like that should be the center dropping down. There was a lot of things I didn't like about that game.
Yeah, they're really sloppy. And I said, Utah is playing the perfect road game, and there just was no room. They clogged up the middle. It's just really, really a frustrating game to watch. And I said, they're going to lose this game. They're going to lose because Utah is not making the same mistakes. And once Cooley scored that goal, Cooley was the guy I really wanted in 22. As much as I wanted Jiricek, and we ended up with Gauthier. But we knew in 22 that Cooley was not going to be, not going to be there. And Cooley's going to be a really good player and everything pretty much what the Flyers need right now. I mean, he doesn't have the size, but is everything. Great playmaker. Be a perfect complement to all these wingers that are just waiting for the puck to get on their stick. And then I felt bad actually for Frost. Remember, it's late in the game, and Frost just over skates the puck.
Yeah.
And that was it. Kevin Stenlin goes in and beats Ersson. He really didn't have much of a chance. A sharper Ersson maybe makes a couple of those saves if he's really on top of his game. But like we said earlier, I don't,
First came back, maybe not so much, but maybe 3 or 4 down the road, he makes that save.
Yeah. So here's what I'm getting. I guess the one subplot, and before we call it a night, it looks like Tortorella prefers Kolosov in the backup role over Fedotov. I mean, Poulsen in the Florida game, 2 not great goals. I didn't think the Flyers had really bad goaltending. And frankly, the night was bad for Florida as well. That whole game it should have been like a 4-3 game, ended up 7-5. But it looks like right now, in the pecking order, it's Ersson is number 1, Kolosov is number 2, and Fedotov is kind of, dangling, pending if Sam Ersson can keep his health.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're going to navigate these waters. And it's so lucky that Nick Delorier just happens to have an injury right now, right? Nod, nod,
Yeah,
wink, wink,
somebody.
right?
Yeah. Somebody kneecapped them in the parking lot or whatever.
I don't know.
Wrong sport. Sorry, that's figure skating.
Right.
But my
Why
my
me?
question was,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, my question more so would be, what's better for Kolosov? So if I'm thinking that, you know, I don't want him sitting on the convention playing every 4 games or a back to back. You know what I mean? I want him to get more reps, but that means the whole AHL weird situation, and he doesn't seem to want it or whatever. I don't know. I mean, but I'd rather have. And here's the thing: when he starts a game, he seems a lot better. But when he came in that one relief, he looked worse than Fedotov did. So he was like
Yes.
flailing all over the place. So the whole situation scares me at goaltending right now.
I have to agree. And factored into the scary part is Ersson's already had a recurrence of this injury. And with groin injuries, you just never know. When he has to do a real couple, like a couple really tough splits or something going east to west, we'll find out. But this is something that bears watching. There's some trade talk right now. I don't think anything is going to happen with the Flyers before the trade freeze right around Christmas. But after that, Katie bar the door. I just can't get a read on how hard they're really trying to do something. Colorado makes a move and moves on from Gorgiev, and they get they have Wedgwood, Mackenzie Blackwood, and Miles Wood. So everybody's making Wood jokes.
They got Wood, that's for sure.
Yeah,
They're very happy
Wood.
there.
They got Wood. Would you mind? But yeah, so Mackenzie Blackwood is now really effectively the number one goalie in Colorado. I mean, that's the one thing that was going to sink them. I don't know what's his name, Landeskog's coming back for them, but we'll see. I'm just not really sure what to think after that game last night. So before we tell you about the schedule ahead, just a reminder about Jim's South Street, 400 South Street in Philly, 40 years of the finest cheesesteaks and hoagies and the grandest Philadelphia tradition. So if you want one, check it out. Go down there. If you live down there, go to DoorDash or Uber Eats, whatever it takes, and get that delicious food to your door. Jim South Street, 400 South Street in Philadelphia, PA. And concluding things for tonight, the Flyers play Tuesday the 10th. So as we're recording tomorrow night in Columbus, they're home against the Red Wings on the 12th. That's Thursday. Then they have a Saturday matinee. I might have to go to the Russian website again because that might be an NHL Network game versus the Wild, who are running wild, really playing well. So that's an interesting game for them. We'll see if their goaltending is straightened out by then. And then the Flyers have a couple of days off until the 18th in Detroit. And early that night, if things work out, we'll be back with Rachel Donner from Locked On Flyers for what will definitely be our final recording before Christmas. Whether it's the final one before New Year, I'm not sure. So, Chef, any final words about the Flyers and where we're headed in this schedule?
No, you know what? I would say, hey guys, it's panicked. See, here's the thing: this team was going to be an up and down team all year. We knew that. We told you that. And what are they right now? 12-12-4. They are the epitome of mediocrity. They have been for the last couple of years. Things are changing. It's albeit slow. It's just, you know what? They're going to play really great games, and then they're going to play games like we got this last 4. You know. And you got to hang in there. It's ups and downs. The whole season is an up and down thing, especially with this team. And just enjoy it. Enjoy when they have good hockey and bitch when they don't. So, I mean, that's the epitome of being a Philly fan of any sport, in fact. And, you know, if you want to argue with me about that, you can find me at Chef to Left B on X, Chef to the Left B on X.
You got it. You can follow the O&B Puckcast at O&B Puck, at O&B Puck. We're also on Blue Sky. We don't do a ton there. We post, we comment here and there at O&B Puck, at O&B Puck. We're also on Getter at O&B Puckcast, at O&B Puckcast. Sometimes we get a little salty over there. We have a YouTube page, just plug in there, O&B Puckcast. And also we're on Facebook. And of course, we're on about a dozen podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, Amazon Audible, Deezer, and a whole bunch of others. Just check it out. And if you could rate and subscribe, it really does help move us up the charts when people are looking for Philadelphia Flyer podcast. Thank you for joining us tonight. And until next time, take care.